season is over. Welcome to the Sports Porch. The Porch is live. ThePorchIsLive.com.
ThePorchIsLive.com.
And
that is us.
if you are listening on American Busker iHeartRadio, thank you for being
Thank
here.
you, iHeartRadio.
iHeartRadio has 150 million registered subscribers. I almost said describers.
Yeah.
There's 150 million people talking about it. 2,000 devices, 260 platforms. And you can always catch our website, Schwaber.
ThePorchIsLive.com.
Thank you.
Thank you, iHeartRadio family.
Subscribe to the podcast. So once again, guys, thanks for being here. Hey, season's over. Season's over for the Steelers, that is. But we got Steelers talk coming up. We got, of course, it's playoff time. Playoffs. It's playoff time. So we're going to do some predictions there.
Mm-hmm.
Hockey Jesus is always in the house.
Jesus.
You can see in the background, we got a little Jerome Bettis in the bus holding up his trophy. We're redoing our studios here on the porch. So guys, listen, I'm gonna start right now. We're just gonna jump right into it. The Steelers finished the season 9-8. All the hubbub on the radio lately has been, and I can't even believe, first of all, I don't even want to follow these guys because sometimes I think what they fill air with is ridiculous.
I haven't listened. So what have they been saying?
Tomlin, Coach of the Year.
Some of them, yeah. Rich Eisen. Yeah, Rich Eisen's big on that.
Yep. Some local guys too.
It's surprising.
And I'll give you my opinion. That's garbage. I think Tomlin's a good coach. Garbage. We're going to spend 30 seconds on it. Is he a Coach of the Year candidate at all?
Not even close.
No, he is not.
Okay. Tomlin's not a Coach of the Year candidate. So let's move on.
He is a good coach. I agree with you.
Absolutely.
He's a good coach.
Absolutely. And I have some thoughts on that. I think what he did, and I heard some clips from some of the players on this past year. And what I thought was interesting is the clips, for the most part, all of them said, hey, look, we love Coach Tomlin. He keeps us in it. He keeps us wanting to win.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we that's what he wants. We want to be in it till the end.
Mm-hmm.
And I watched that game yesterday, and the Steelers did not hold their destiny in their own hands. They had to win, but a lot of other stuff had to happen. And they didn't mail it in. But in some of the other games, there are a lot of those teams, they just mailed it in, man. Like, I'm not even here. So I do think from the perspective of finishing 9-8 and another winning season for Coach Tomlin, that given the fact that he had a transition year and a lot of issues that we're going to talk about, that he did a good job as a coach this year. He did a good job.
I find him to be very similar to Doug Peterson, where he's a good coach. They always have a winning record. But you know what he is? He's a good leader of men. He's not a great X's and O's guy.
Right.
That's my feeling on it.
Yeah, everybody says that. Like, I'll run through a wall for this guy.
Right.
Like, he gets me motivated. But why they didn't seem motivated in the first quarter yesterday, you know?
They really didn't. Yeah, you're right.
But, I mean, I don't know. I have such a hard time with that because I do think he actually is a really good speaker, and I think he does get a lot out of his players. But when it comes to the X's and O's part of it, not only is he not that good with it, he doesn't even like to hire people who are good with it.
Well,
that's
we'll get to that.
That's the biggest criticism I can give him. I think he's not going anywhere, so it doesn't really matter what I think or what we think here. He's not going anywhere. But if I wish he could work on something, I wish he would get out of his own kitchen and let other people in it and start doing some cooking.
There you go. And I don't disagree with that. 2-6, 7-2. First half versus second half. Schwab, what are your thoughts?
Do you want to start with Steve?
Yeah, I definitely would like to take this one. So I think in the first half, it was one of those. Tomlin was a rookie coach, never had to use a different quarterback before, and he basically gets an F because he panicked. He told Trubisky one thing, and as soon as the Jets, who ended up actually being an okay team, I know they didn't make the playoffs, and they didn't help us in the last. Thanks, Jets. But I think that game was where he could have excelled and said, you know what, I'm going to stay the course. I'm going to stick with Trubisky. I know he's not doing well. but there's no way Kenny's ready. And if he just would have stuck with it, I think he wins one of those games that they lost, and I think they make the playoffs.
Right.
And it's all because he's never been in that situation before. So I do kind of fault him for doing that. That being said, I thought he did a really good job. I know we can look at the teams they played, and the teams sucked. The teams were terrible. And our offense actually did get better. But I think that's more about Pickett and Najee being healthy and the offensive line being able to work better together.
I think it's more of a function of that
than it was in the play calling and the ability for Tomlin to coach the team.
Right.
I think the team did kind of come together in the last, the 7-2 is pretty impressive in the last 9. So that's the way I feel about the season. It definitely was the tale of 2 seasons, but it gets an F in the first half, probably gets a B in the second half. So to me, he gets a C. He gets a C.
Robert?
Are we doing the coaching grade?
Well, Steve kind of pushed us in that direction.
Okay.
So yeah, let's grade him.
It's interesting he says that, because that's exactly what I got. I got the coaching grade as a C.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty much in full agreement with what Steve said. He did not handle the quarterback situation at the beginning of the year well at all. In fact, he might even be lucky that he didn't destroy Kenny Pickett. He might even be lucky that he didn't do that.
Yeah.
But fortunately for Pittsburgh Steelers fans, Kenny Pickett's got a little bit of a thicker skin than some people out there.
Right.
And he was able to work through it.
Right.
But yeah, Tomlin is a good leader of men. He is able to will his teams to play like a pretty good defensive ball and ball control offense and game manage to win games against bad teams. He's good at that. But I think for the team to get to the next level, I agree with Steve completely. This team is an offensive coordinator and some draft picks away from being a decent team. But my fear is if they come back with the same group, even though, let's just say, Pickens is going to get better, Pickett's going to get better, even though people are going to get better next year, right? I think we're going to look at the same kind of record if we come back with Matt Canada. That's just how I feel.
Yeah,
I agree. I think Tomlin gets an overall a B for the year because one of the main reasons they started off 2-6, in my opinion, is that he botched the whole quarterback thing. And that goes back to my comments in past shows where I said they didn't really have a plan. And it's hard to have a plan when you lose a Hall of Fame caliber quarterback and now you've got to start from scratch. I get it. So they were piecing that plan together. And that's my point. They pieced that plan together. And I think that had they started the year with Kenny Pickett, his progression, barring injury, probably would have been a little further. Now that we've seen Kenny Pickett for 12 games of the season, basically, right? 12 games, I think.
10. Because he was injured.
He was injured right. But we've got enough film on Kenny Pickett now to know that he's progressing. What that predicts, who knows? But it doesn't predict that he's a total bust. Okay, when push comes to shove,
he's got a chance to be decent.
When he's got to make the play, he makes the play. So I overall I give Tomlin a B for the year, and I'm looking forward to next year. Hopefully, we see some progression. Canada, I give a D plus, and the reason I give him a D plus on the offense, well, I think he performed poorly. But as the year went on and Kenny Pickett started to progress, and you could see that he was, he wasn't turning the ball over as much. He was going through his progressions better. He was making even better decisions, and then he led him to those victories. And then in the last game against Cleveland kind of mailed it in, but kind of didn't.
Yeah, they mailed it in.
They quit in the second half.
Yeah, they did quit in the second half. You're right.
It
Yeah.
was over.
but he won the game. So, I think that they started to kind of open it up a little bit for him. So that's where the plus comes in. D, they need to replace him. I'm with you guys. They need a new coordinator. Tomlin deferred that and said he wasn't going to even think about that right now in his news conference today. So to me, that means no changes coming.
Well, because I know Tomlin does listen to the Sports Porch. Tomlin, Mr. Coach T, all I want you to do is look at how many pass touchdowns we had this year and realize that it's the bottom of the league. And in a passing league, we just can't have an offense that is going to be the worst passing touchdown offense in the league.
Our supposed number one
wide receiver had 0 touchdowns, broke an NFL record for completions. So, Coach T, when you go and look at your offensive coordinator, please put that first in his evaluation when you sit down with him at the end of the year and you say, "I'm sorry, but here's your pink slip."
Yeah. Okay.
All right. Also, the 20 points. Was it just once during the year they topped 20?
They had 28 against Cleveland.
Yeah. They averaged 20 points in the second half of the year.
Yeah.
They averaged 20
Which
points.
is still pretty horrible.
That's bad.
Yeah, which is bad, but it's not under. Right, it's not under. Okay, so coaching aside, let's move on. What we want to do here is we want to grade parts of this. Now, Daniel chimes in and says B grade in the second half. Daniel Rupert also says D- for Canada. Got to go. Offense has enormous potential. Yep, we agree. Richard is back, and he wants to know why we're not talking about the Buccos. Maybe someday. All right, so
come back in May.
So grades. Let's move on. So we just graded the coaching. Okay, let's grade the defense. Steve, give me your thoughts on that because we have an argument.
Yeah, the defense is a little bit trickier than the coaching and the offense, in my opinion. I mean, they were 9th against the run. This is by yards in the NFL. That's pretty freaking good considering they started out not being able to stop the run. Right. And they played without TJ for a little while there. A healthy Cam was very helpful. And the fact that their defensive linebacking core is less than average. Oh, man, this is a really tough one. I think I got to give the defense a solid B just because I think they held their own those games. And even though they held to teams below 20 points sometimes, they still lost the game. That's unacceptable. That should be enough to win a game. And once again, there are only like 2 games like that maybe. But if they win one of them, they're in the playoffs. And they're a pretty hot defense. I know you like to bring up the interception statistic. I think
steals my thunder.
You can talk about it. I'm not going to tell them what the statistic is. But I think that actually that I give him a B. I really like the way the defense played. A full year with TJ. Depending on what they do with the defensive line, I mean, they got the defensive lineman whose name's escaping. Leal. He'll be back next year. They'll probably lose the other guy that they signed this year. And what they're really going to do with the defensive end position on the other side is probably going to either make that defense the same or better. And I'll say my analysis on Bush for another segment we're going to be having.
All right, Squabber, what's your feeling on the defense, on the grade?
I agreed with Steve. I give them just a solid B. They were good against the run. They would probably be better pass rush-wise if TJ Watt was healthy. Linebackers, I agree, below average. The one area where I really am not thrilled with the Steelers, they don't have terrible corners, but I feel like both corners could be upgraded. So I kind of look at this defense like if you want to truly be an elite defense, give me one shutdown corner and one corner that's really above average. I feel like they kind of got 2 average guys.
Yeah,
and I think in the passing league, that's really important.
Yeah, but you have to draft those guys, and sometimes they work out for the Steelers they haven't worked out in the past.
They haven't. Yeah, I mean it's true. But
Yeah,
I think that's missing.
I
agree.
give the defense a B+ because they led the league in interceptions, and they kept the Steelers in other than a couple games. They kept the Steelers in every game. Okay, let's say that Deontay Johnson had 5 touchdown catches this year. You could probably add 3 more victories. So I put this because the Steelers played, I think, they were among the tops in 1-score games this year. So
Yeah.
I think that this was less of. I think people started to focus on the defense more when TJ Watt was out and they weren't getting the sacks and the rushing and they weren't able to stop the run game as well. But I would give Terrell Austin in that defense a B+ grade because they adjusted as the year went on, and when Watt came back. They still, I mean, he didn't go crazy and have 15 sacks in the last 7 games of the year. You know what I mean? So I think the defense, being the highest paid defense in the NFL, they underperformed that paycheck, but I think they overperformed the expectations, and they're a big reason that the team ended up 9-8. And I think there's a lot to build on. You know, and we can talk about that when we talk about like most improved players and all that. So I think the defense was a positive this year, even though many people would have thought we're talking about a negative. So
Well, I think we both called it a positive at a B.
That's true.
Good grade.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
It's
think
a good grade.
I think they were good this year.
I tell my kids all the time, get B's. You know, get B's. You'll be all right.
Yeah.
You'll make it through life.
You're
A's don't
really
matter that
guiding
much.
them towards success.
Hey, I don't want to set them up for failure. I just want to guide them.
Did you tell Leah to get B's?
No, if she got a B, she would probably.
Have a heart
What's
attack.
that Beatles song?
Happiness is a warm gun.
Yeah. I think that would
All
be playing in the background.
all right. Whatever. So Mike Lawrence says not just Steelers, some crap football this season. I don't know how. I don't know. Does he know how to type or poor tackling, missed field goals, lousy passing, bad ref calls? How about roughing the passer on Cam yesterday? What do you guys think? Well, I think that's called the NFL.
Yeah,
I really do. No disrespect, but that's the NFL.
Yeah, it is. Like you know what? When that happened yesterday, my very first thought before the flag was thrown was I looked at Amy. I said, "They're going to flag that."
Yeah.
And they did, and it was bullshit.
Yeah,
but that's what they do. They flag that.
I know, and that's
you know what I mean.
It was a horrible call.
Watch any other NFL games. There are horrible calls, and I don't hear you complaining about the non-face mask call on Deshaun Watson.
Exactly.
So they usually tend to balance out. Like you can't look at bad refereeing and being like that cost us. Like you could look at that Dolphins game and that horse collar call on whoever it was. I think it was Waddle. Got pulled down from behind. He didn't grab him by the shoulder pads. He grabbed his jersey and pulled him down. But that cost the Steelers a playoff position potentially.
Right.
So I mean, I can't get too excited about referee calls because they're bad in every game. They usually do balance out, except when Tom Brady's on the field.
There you go.
I had to say it.
Always a Brady reference. Okay, let's grade the offense real quick. Schwaber, let's start with you. Go for it.
I gave the offense a C-.
Okay.
And I would actually say C- is positive.
That's a good score.
That's a positive. And the reason for that is I see a potential number one in George Pickens. I see. I don't know that Najee Harris is ever going to be a top 5 back, but he could be sort of like a number 10 back in the league. And I think Pickett showed promise. I mean, like he did well enough for me to not feel like I have to go get a quarterback next year, which is progress.
Yeah.
Now the reality with Kenny Pickett, I mean, people did get excited because he engineered 2 fourth-quarter comebacks. The problem with those is that he really didn't play very well in the entire game, those games.
Yeah.
And he really didn't play that well in this game until second half. It was a little more than just fourth quarter.
Right.
Kenny Pickett's accuracy is not really good. He actually throws some really great balls, like a lot of quarterbacks do when they're learning and they're, have room to improve. But he was at like a 38% accuracy or 44% accuracy yesterday. Probably on the season, it was around 60%. So he needs to bring that number up to keep drives alive. I mean, it's great that he threw like a nice, touchdown to Pickens and that he did enough to win the game. That's a big part of it. But, some of those passes in the first quarter were horrible yesterday. Overthrows and underthrows, and he's got a long way to go in my mind.
Okay, Steve,
so that's kind of where I'm coming from.
All right, C- for Schwab.
I really want to give the offense an F. I really do. I can't quite give them an F, so I'll give them a D-. And here's why. Let's not forget, the offensive play calling was horrible all year. Way too conservative for NFL today. I get why they did it. It doesn't matter. You still have to open it up. So I'll give the play calling an absolute F.
When it comes to the running game,
Beginning of the season was terrible. The offensive line wasn't opening up any holes. Najee almost got killed. People wanted to start Jalen Warren, for God's sakes, only because he was fast enough to at least run around guys, But the rushing schemes did get better, minus the jet sweeps. The jet sweeps have to go. They still have to go. So I think that was terrible. Let's go to the passing game. I mean, when you don't throw the ball across the middle for 8 or 10 games of the season in an 18-game season, that's just ridiculous. I mean, what NFL team does that other than the Steelers? I didn't see one out there when I was watching the games, and you won't see any this weekend when you're watching the games because they use the whole freaking field.
Right.
So the offense has just been terrible. Did it get better? Yes. It went from a F- to an F to a D- by the end of the season. But they still have a long way to go with this offense. I get it. They have a lot of young talent on there. I do like that about the offense. But look, Kenny Pickett threw 8 interceptions in the first 6 games that he played. In the last 4, he only threw 1. So he is getting better. And I think that he actually is throwing the ball down the field more. So that should tell you right there that throwing the ball down the field doesn't necessarily mean it's a risky play. It actually could open some things up for a quarterback. So the offense was just horrible. I'm giving him a D-.
Yeah, and I'm gonna go with you, Steve. I'm not gonna give him a D-, but I'll give him a D. I think a lot of this is predicated on 2 things. One, the whole Matt Canada issue, which we've ground that one into the dust, and we're just praying we don't have to ground it into the dust anymore next year.
I'll be happy to.
And no, you won't, because I have a feeling they'll end up in the same spot next year. But and the other issue to me, again, was the quarterback issue and the confusion in the first basically 6 games, if you will, even after the Jets game. Is Trubisky, where's Trubisky? Why didn't they put Pickett in? And now all of a sudden he's kind of having to learn in real time. So, that took a whole hell of a lot away from the passing side of the ball. On the rushing side of the ball, what you saw was a rushing game, a running game that got better as the year wore on. And I think it got better for one reason and one reason only. And that is that line, which I would give my highest grade on offense, started to play as a unit, and they benefited from no injuries that would take them off the field. We know they all get banged up.
Yeah.
So,
either that or they weren't hitting other teams hard enough.
Well, right. But Najee started to be able to run the ball because they were getting a better push off the line.
Yeah, for sure.
Their blocking schemes were better. They're learning to play with each other.
But also Najee was running with more purpose.
And he was running with more purpose.
More north-south.
But that goes back
to
a
little bit of jumping the other day.
Yeah, a little jumping. But that goes back to what I've been saying all along. And Mark, you actually touched on it. And Steve was texting me yesterday during the game, saying he finally thinks he sees what I may see. And that is that Najee Harris doesn't have a burst of speed.
Yeah.
He can't hit now that the offensive line is creating holes. What I've seen, I saw one play yesterday where they were doing a blocking scheme and pushing everybody to the left, and he ran to the left.
Mm-hmm.
What he should have done is cut it back to the right, because they were pushing everybody in the other direction, and he ran right into the pile.
Yeah.
And to me, that's one play, but that's indicative of his running style. It's almost like he wants the contact, and you got to hand it to him. He's not afraid to play football the way it's supposed to be played.
Right.
But look, man, have a little vision, take a little stutter step, find the hole, burst through it. This guy, his longest run this year was like 22 yards. He's not a home run threat. And if you're not a home run threat, then you don't have to bring those linebackers up. You don't have to create a middle of the field, that's open for people to throw over it. And I honestly, as great a person as Najee is, and I love him when I see interviews and all this, he's just not that home run hitting running back. And I worry about that next year, especially if this offensive line starts to get together. So offense overall for me was a D as well. But the caveat is that, I think that the improvement, if they change coordinators, I think there's a lot of improvement. So let's move on here. And again, I want to remind everybody, if you're listening to us on American Busker iHeartRadio, that iHeartRadio has 150 million registered users, 2,000 devices, and 260 platforms. And please subscribe to our podcast on the iHeartRadio app. It's the Sports Porch, or anywhere you get your podcasts. Thank you so much for that. We want to move on now. We're going to talk about some, most improved player this year, or most improved unit on the Steelers. Anybody want to step in and just grab that one?
Boy, that's a tough one.
Schwaber, go ahead.
I'm going to go with Highsmith.
Well, that would be okay. Most improved, right?
Yeah, most
Highsmith.
improved player, Highsmith. He had double-digit sacks, right? What did he have? Did he have 12?
Yes, he did.
12 sacks. That's a lot of sacks.
Yep.
And he did get a good amount of them without T.J. Watt on the field.
He did.
So I really felt that he elevated his game and has become a really good second, tandem piece to J.J. Watt. So I think I believe he is actually titled a linebacker, but he more plays defensive end.
Yeah, he's
kind of like that. Right.
Yeah,
so to me, I feel like it kind of keeps you're in a really good spot at defensive end as long as they're both healthy.
Yep. Okay. Most improved, Steve.
I have a shocker here, and actually, this plays into next year. So I'm going to go with Chase Claypool. I think by trading him, that was the smartest thing the Steelers did all season on the offense.
They were talking about how bad that trade was this morning.
I mean, it was addition by subtraction. It got Pickens on the field more, so it got him more face time with Pickett, right? And the Bears got the number 1 overall pick. So we got a 33rd pick out of it. I mean, that's just incredible.
Yeah, that was a good
for
move.
somebody like Chase Claypool.
Yeah.
So I think that was probably the most improved situation the Steelers had on offense all year long.
Okay, I like that call. My most improved is the offensive line. I don't think that anybody is really talking about them the way they should. And especially coming from the place of last year where it was like, oh, my God, they're horrible. And then this year, oh, my God, they're terrible. By the end of the year, I would wager to say by like the 12th game, 10th, 11th, 12th game, nobody was talking about the offensive line anymore.
You didn't hear about Kenny Pickett running for his life
Nope.
like last year. Remember last year how much we said, God, Ben's got to throw the ball in like 1.2 seconds. Otherwise, he gets clobbered.
Yep. And that's a place where I think some of the comments we've made in the past where you kind of have to have patience when you're rebuilding something. Sometimes it takes time. Do I think any of these guys were Pro Bowl worthy? No, I don't. But I think as a unit, they really put a magnificent season together, especially considering the situation they were in. So
one of them was pretty bad though. I think was it the right tackle?
Mason Cole.
He either led the league in sacks or he led the league in offsides penalties.
Yeah,
Yeah.
one of the guys.
One of the guys.
Well,
one of the guys was
And
not good.
I'm talking about the unit cohesively as a whole.
Yeah.
They played very well together.
didn't
So-
I
know
think
the
on
sort of
every
switch.
offensive
Yeah.
line, you're going to
Yeah.
have a couple guys who
Yeah.
kind of aren't as good as the other
Yeah.
guys, and you just don't run to that side as much.
yeah, yeah.
Or you
Sure.
call
Yeah.
plays away from
Yeah.
that side. You know?
Yeah.
I would like to give an honorable mention to Cam Hayward, though. I think he played really well this year again.
Yeah.
After having the season he had last year, I had doubts he could make it through a full season. And I think he only missed like maybe 1 or 2 games.
If that.
And having other guys behind him really helped him, be a stud up in the middle. And I think that's one of the reasons, they were 9th against the run. They just were really really difficult to run against in the middle. And when you can't run it up the middle, it makes up for a lot of mistakes. So
OBJ.
honorable mention.
All right, and DG's in the house. What's up, DG? He says Kenny Pickett is the most improved. Still a ways to go, but definitely has taken steps in the right direction. That's your opinion. And DG says Cam is an incredible beast, and he is.
Cam is.
Okay, so who would you cut? Who would you say get rid of him right now?
Well, since I already kind of foreshadowed this, I think I should jump right in here. Devin Bush got to go. I mean, I know, he played better than he did last year. He's still horrible. I mean, the guy who makes way too much money, he just needs to go. He does not need to be back. He does not need to be back.
Gotcha.
The
I
end.
can't disagree with that, but I will give another one. It's got to be the man, Deontay Johnson.
Oh, really?
Has to be Deontay Johnson.
Deontay Johnson.
The butt. Look, I know you can make an argument.
Wow.
I know you can
They
make an argument.
just signed him for like a 3-year contract.
I know you can make the argument. He led the team in catches, even though he had no touchdown catches. But the bottom line, this is my feeling about Deontay Johnson. He is a losing football player. He's a drive killer with his drops, and he is senseless. He's afraid to get hit. He runs backwards all the time, even after people are talking about it week after week. The bottom line is you don't need him, right? Draft a wide receiver, and get rid of Deontay Johnson. He's just he's an energy zapper.
Mark,
That's exactly what he is.
Will you like him better when Calvin Austin III is in the lineup, taking about 40 of those catches away from him?
I would like him better with nobody replacing him and Pickens getting 12 targets a game.
So you're saying if the Steelers offered up him to the Eagles, straight up for Devonta Smith, you would say no.
Oh, absolutely not. Devonta Smith had 91 catches, 1,200 yards, and 10 touchdowns.
Yeah, I know. He actually led the Eagles.
Yeah, I know. I don't even think there's an argument.
No,
there.
I mean, could Deontay Johnson be the third receiver on the Eagles? He could. He's better than Quez Watkins.
There you go.
But no, we don't want his negative energy.
Okay, guys.
Not at
So
all. He's you know what he's going to be.
You don't like his backwards running?
When
How about his backwards running fumbles?
You know who Deontay Johnson is going to be when he goes to another team? When he goes to another team, he's going to be like the next Kenny Galladay.
Yeah, you're right.
Who
Or
does nothing.
Juju, like Juju.
Or Juju.
You know?
Basically nothing.
Right. Yeah. I mean,
Yeah,
that's just
yeah.
the way it is. So we lost our producer, and we're much better off for it.
Yeah,
Next
thank
up
God.
on the docket, Mark, we're going to talk about the Steelers' MVP, most valuable player.
Okay. And you want me to go or you?
Yeah.
go?
Why don't you take this one? Because I don't want to take the same one as you.
Okay. Well, I gotta say,
Although maybe we will take the same one. I don't know.
this is a very odd MVP choice because it's not at a position where you usually label somebody as an MVP.
Right.
But I'm gonna say it's Minkah Fitzpatrick.
Minka.
Okay. And
Yeah.
I'll tell you the reason for that. I do not know off the top of my head, but I'm gonna guess that there were about 4 games this year that he made the key play to win the game.
Right.
He's a turnover machine in a good way.
Yeah.
And he does have
Tied for the league in interceptions. Right.
Yep. Yeah. He has a knack for making the interception at the end of the game.
Right.
When the other
He's
team,
a closer when it comes to
He is. He's a closer.
Yeah.
And he also he's a leader. I mean, I know there was that kind of misunderstanding with him and Cam, but I like that. You know, I think
Yeah.
that he obviously really cares, and he goes out there and like, didn't he return like a week after he like had a serious injury? Or
Yeah, he
something?
had an appendectomy.
Right,
he had an appendectomy, missed
Right.
that week.
So
and
he's
then they said he would probably be out 2 to 3 weeks, and then he was back, I think, for the Tampa
Right.
game.
So he's really tough. And I mean, and if you think about it, in a passing league where, let's say, at the other safety position and at your 2 corner positions and your nickel position, you know, you're not throwing out any Pro Bowl players. I mean, he really mans the middle of the field really, really well, and you know, forces teams to you know, play into mistakes. So I think he's just an excellent player.
Yeah, I can't disagree. I think Minka definitely. I mean, he was chosen as the MVP by the Steelers.
Was he? I didn't know that.
So for that reason, you got it right. Big check mark for Mark there. I can't go with anybody on the offense for the clear reason that I wanted to give them an F grading. So I got to go with somebody on the defense. Actually, I really wanted to go with like a kicker, but Boswell was actually pretty terrible this year.
Yeah, he was.
Matthew Wright probably gets an honor. Responded, although he did, I think, miss his first.
First couple were bad. Yeah,
but actually, you know what? He got picked up by Kansas City. Did you hear that?
He's on Kansas City now.
He's on
Because
Kansas
Butker
City.
was terrible.
You know, Butker's always got like some kind of hamstring, so I think they put him up. I guess I'm gonna go. I know this sounds dumb, but I think TJ would be my MVP, and here's why. When the guy is in on the defense, he just makes that defense, the whole defense, better. He makes Minka better. He makes Cam better. He makes Highsmith better. When he didn't play, they fell apart. So
it's true.
I think for that reason, it's one of those, like, you know, you take him out of the game and the defense falls apart. Yeah, okay, I agree with you, Mark. I think he played injured the rest of the season, and I'm not excusing any of his lack of sacks in the second half of the season. But I do believe that for that reason, I would just go with TJ. I know there's an asterisk around it because I agree with you. I think Minka probably is the true MVP, but I just want to give a shout out to TJ because I think he played through an injury. Once again, playing with a torn pec, that ain't easy. That is not hard.
Yeah,
and by the way, that's probably not going to go away. So
yeah, most people are out for the season with that.
Yeah, and you know they said it wasn't fully torn away from the bone or whatever. So what are you going to do? All right, so we're going to switch it up. We're going to move away from the Steelers. Hey, Brad, thanks for that update. For those of you who aren't watching, Georgia is already leading in the national championship.
Oh, that's going on tonight. I forgot about it.
You planning on putting that on later, Mark?
I probably will.
I think I'll put it on. Watch it till halftime. It should be all over by then. You know?
Yeah, probably.
That ceremony is kind of dumb though. Like the way they hand out that trophy's not very good.
No,
they got to get a better trophy.
Yeah,
it's like they're trying to be the Stanley Cup, but it's a smaller version of it.
It's not good.
No, but yeah, no surprise. Georgia's already winning that game. But hey, who are they playing against? The Horned Frogs.
The Horned Frogs of TCU.
The Horned Frogs can make a comeback. Don't count the Horned Frogs out. All right, I think it's time to go to hockey.
Playoff. I thought we were going playoff.
Yeah, we gotta go.
Oh, playoffs!
We gotta
Playoffs!
Playoffs.
You gotta let my.
You want to talk about playoffs?
Let's talk about
That's what
playoff
happens when
picks.
smoke alarms go off in your studio.
I thought we were actually going to be consumed with fire.
Yeah, no, we're good. We're good. I'm a little out of
We're not
breath.
on fire.
It was a tense scene here.
I'm a little out of breath. But we're good. Okay, we're going to the playoffs now. However, what we got, and thanks for filling in the time. I'm sure you did it incredibly.
Oh yeah.
I was running around going, what the? All right, so last week, rounding out the season. Last week,
Oh yeah, this is it. Mark's the big winner.
The big winner.
Let's just say it. Mark won. I got a number 3. You got a 1 and 2. Mark went a 2 and 1, and that's all that matters.
Yep. So that puts the final predictions for the regular season. Mark was 33 and 20. Chris was 20 and 33, and Steve was 28 and 25. So
hey, nobody had a losing record there. That's the good thing.
that is pretty impressive. I agree.
Yeah.
So now we're moving on to the NFL playoffs round,
Playoffs.
and
We're gonna pick every game.
let's start And we'll start with Steve's pick this week, even though he went 0-3 last week.
Oh, that doesn't sound
Saturday, Seahawks at 49ers. Steve, what say you?
Well, I know Purdy's the guy, so why bet against him? Purdy.
Hall of Fame.
Purdy, Hall of Fame, class of 2035.
All right, so what would
49ers.
you go with 49ers? Yeah, and I'm going the 49ers too. I mean, how can you pick against them?
I did actually pick against Seattle, but then I was picking Seattle before we came, and I was listening to some guys that said 49ers just dominated them during the regular season, and Seattle hasn't actually been playing well lately.
No, they're not.
And they always play better at home anyway. So.
Right.
Hats off to Geno Smith, but Brock Purdy is the man.
Well, he's got Geno.
I know. All right, next game up, Sunday or Saturday, Dolphins at the Bills.
This is easy. Bills in a slaughter.
Bills in a walkway.
Yep. Bills win the game. All right. Wow, we're just blowing right through these. This next one, if Lamar is back, Ravens at the Bengals.
You skipped the game, though.
Did I?
That's the game.
You skipped Jaguars.
No, that's Sunday.
That's Sunday.
Oh, is it Sunday?
That's
Yeah, I'm
Sunday.
pretty sure it's
okay.
Sunday.
Pay attention. Pay attention.
Well,
You're basking in the glow of the number 1 seed of the Eagles. So
When you're a winner, you're a winner.
You don't have
There
to
you go.
watch games, and you've already
No.
won.
That's right.
okay, Ravens at Bengals. Steve.
Piece of cake. This is the Ravens all the way. It's a shocker. Nobody's going to like it, but I'm telling you.
Is Lamar playing?
They're going to win. The Ravens are going to win.
You heard it here first.
Bengals in a rout.
And I'm going with the Bengals as well. Okay, now, Mark, since you were so hip to get to this game, Chargers at Jaguars on Sunday. Tough one.
The Jags, all Dougie P does is win.
Eagles fan picking the Jags. Okay, Mark, Jags. Steve.
It's time for the hair to win. Herbert over the other guys here.
Yep. And I'm going to have to go with my man crush. I'm saying the Chargers are going to win that game. Finally, they win a playoff game. All right, next game, Giants at the who are they? The Vikings. That's right, the Vikings.
G-Man at Vikings. I know everybody's going to take the Giants, so I'm going to take them first.
Robert?
I also got the Giants. Minnesota is fake.
I think Minnesota's better.
I'm going to go against my better judgment, and I'm going to pick the fake Vikings.
Still
I went
can't-
against my judgment and took the Giants.
Yeah.
Still
Yeah.
can't separate
Yeah.
from
Yeah.
Kirk Cousins.
Kirk Cousins, baby. Kirk Cousins. All right, last games.
Last one's easy.
Cowboys at Tampa Bay.
I'm taking the favorites. That would be the boys.
One and done again. The Bucks and Brady are playing in Philadelphia.
All right, so taking the Bucks.
That's bad for you.
And I can't stand the Cowboys. I'm taking Tampa Bay as well. All right, there you have it.
These guys who can't stand the Cowboys.
That's right. That's how you do it. That's how you do
That's
it.
how you finish last.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, you finished last by picking like me.
All right. So thanks again for being here. We're going to move on to this part of the podcast where we bring the hockey Jesus in. As you all know, Steve is our reigning hockey Jesus. Talks about the Penguins. Every Penguins game after the conclusion, you can catch the Hockey Jesus sermon on the Sports Porch podcast, on the iHeartRadio app, or anywhere you get your podcasts, or on the porcheslive.com. Hockey Jesus, they got to win.
The Pens won. Yes.
But other than that,
They won on the road. They played in Arizona in a great arena called Mullet Arena. Wouldn't you love to go to Mullet Arena?
I think they named it after you.
I think they did. You know what they did their first home game? They handed out 5,000 mullets. They
Did
did.
they really?
This is a real story.
I love
Yeah.
it.
Why is the name Mullet? Do you know?
It's the name of a business. I'm not
Oh,
exactly
really?
sure what the business
Sounds like
is.
it's a win.
It's kind of like Acrisure. It sounds really stupid, but mullet sounds really cool.
Yeah.
And actually,
I actually thought when you sent that text,
it-
yeah, they
it's
win
great.
at Mullet Arena, I was like, what is he talking about? Were there a lot of Penguins fans there? I don't get it.
Yeah, there were a lot of Penguins fans.
I bet.
Because
I
I mean,
bet.
it's Arizona. I mean,
Right.
that's Pittsburgh West.
Right.
Guys.
It's just in case you want to know. It's in honor of Donald and Barbara Mullet, one of the University of Arizona
Yeah, they
State
gave Arizona
University's
State a bunch of
benefactors.
money.
There you go.
Yeah,
There you go.
because they're playing on Arizona State's campus now. They're building a
see.
new stadium,
I
and
see.
it only houses like 5,000 people. So that's definitely a destination Hockey Jesus wants to go before they stop playing there for sure.
All
I
right.
mean, can you imagine watching an NHL game and with 5,000 people? I mean, that's got to be incredible.
Called Mullet Arena.
In a Mullet Arena, like,
Yeah.
come on. Anyway, so Penn's won. They were on a terrible skid before that. I don't know if you got to check out the Winter Classic, but the Winter Classic was an incredible venue. And then they go out to Vegas and get slobber knocked by Vegas. Vegas actually is a really good team. They're my first predicted team to make the Stanley Cup Finals. They're that good. I mean, they're coached by Bruce Cassidy, and he was former Bruins coach who got canned just because they didn't think he was good enough, but he's still a really good coach. Kind of what would happen if Sully gets fired. Somebody would pick him up because he's a really good coach and he would do well. He's doing great with Vegas. He's got that team playing really hard. And they don't even look like they skate, and they skate really fast. Just a good team. So for them to get killed by Vegas, they needed to win in Arizona, and they did. So that was good. So now they come back and they play Vancouver this week. That basically puts them at the halfway point. Actually, Friday night is the halfway point. They'll be midway through on Friday, but they play on Saturday. So the Hockey Jesus is going to give his first half analysis of the Penguins on Thursday night.
How about a Bluger update?
Bluger is still on the fourth line. He's missing his pals, Paling and Archibald, both injured.
Okay.
So he's been playing with, I think he's been playing with Heinen and McGinn. It's not been good for him. He's not been doing well. Still killing penalties like a champ, though, but not scoring any goals. Actually had a prime opportunity in Vegas that he just completely blew.
Oh.
So he's having a mixed bag. There's actually some talk of him maybe on a trade block.
We can't have
I don't
that.
believe that.
We
I don't
can't
believe
have
that.
that.
They don't have anybody that can fill in for him on the power play.
We cannot
Penalty
have
kill.
that.
I just don't believe that would happen. But, I think March 3rd or March 1st is the deadline.
Things have happened.
That'll be something we talk about in February. So we got a while before we have to worry about trade deadlines and that coming up. But Pens are actually still in a playoff spot. They own the last playoff spot. They've got the 8th spot right now with that win, but anybody could jump over them. The Washington Capitals are super hot right now. They jumped over the Penguins. They're about 6 points ahead of them for the position that's in front of them. So they're pretty far away from the next spot. So they need to string some games together. Let's hope they keep it going against Vancouver on Tuesday. And then they got back-to-back on Friday and Saturday. So that is the Pittsburgh Penguins Hockey Jesus update.
All right. Thanks again for that, Hockey Jesus. And a reminder, you can catch the Sports Porch podcast and Hockey Jesus after every single Pens game on the iHeartRadio app or anywhere you get your podcasts. And thanks again for listening to us on American Busker iHeartRadio, 150 million registered users, 2,000 devices, 260 platforms. And we will be back next week with another edition of the Sports Porch. And I think that's all we got. Thanks for listening, guys.
Thank you.
And don't forget to take down.
Oh, I gotta do that. And as always, replace the batteries in your smoke detectors. Thank you.